Hello, everybody, and welcome back to round number 3 of the League Cup for the Collector Store in St. Peter's. I'm Jared Carpenter, joined by my co-commentator, Chris Yingling. We've got a real treat for you today in this round, a real interesting team coming up here. Our POV player will be versus Xavier P. Chris, why don't you tell us what you think about the two teams we're seeing here?
Yeah, two really fun ones here. Anyone who has seen our friend Will play in the St. Louis area knows that Will is a big fan of that big fat blue fish over there, Dondozo, and it is no surprise that he has shown up to today's tournament with Dondozo Tatsugiri in this one, opting for the neutralizing gas Weezing version of the team. We have seen this a little bit recently, where it's kind of you have Dozo Giri in the back, and then Weezing neutralizing gas. Make sure everything stops on the field, all those abilities stop on the field, and it allows whatever Weezing's partner is to kind of go off. For Will's team, that is the Calyrex Shadow Rider. This one being Specs, we do know that as one is an ability that, for whatever reason, that Game Freak decided is immune to Weezing's neutralizing gas, so it is able to continue getting those boosts. But the Specs Calyrex in this one, really impactful next to Weezing. And then a Miraidon for Will's team is the ability shield variant. So it is still going to get the electric terrain up using that Hadron engine, still get the boost there to all of its special attacking moves, including Electro Drift, and be able to do what it needs to do there. This sort of team with the really bulky Dondozo and Tatsugiri in the back is meant for Weezing to set some toxic spikes or get poison gas going, so that the Dondozo in the back can kind of just sit there and do whatever it needs to do to get kills, and then kind of just wait and protect and get more leftovers recovery as the poison wears on the other side. Another interesting addition on Will's team here is that Maushold for this one, with the Friend Guard sort of playing pseudo Clefairy here with this Maushold with the Rocky helmet, also seeing some normal Clefairy stuff like Helping Hand and Follow Me, but Maushold, interestingly, has both Taunt and Feint in this one. Sort of seems a little bit like an anti-Trick Room mon, or maybe, hey, you're worried about Calyrex hitting into a Wide Guarder on the opposing end. Maushold can kind of deal with that opposing Wide Guarder with taunting the move or Feint to break the move on the opponent's side. Meanwhile, we have Xavier, one of our seniors in the St. Louis area, bringing a kind of more standard Sun balanced sort of team with Koraidon. This Koraidon does have Life Orb on it instead of the Clear Amulet variants that we've been seeing, so it is going to have a little bit of that damage boost from the Life Orb, which can often come into play here. And Lunala, this is going to be your dual attack boosting Lunala with Moongeist Beam and Meteor Beam instead of the Terra Fairy Moonblast version that we've seen running around the format right now. And then just some regular partners that help those guys out. Flutter main is able to get the Photosynthesis and the Focus Sash, your standard speed control set. Incineroar with safety goggles, and the Amoonguss as just a general good pivot, do whatever you want mon. And then the Raging Bolt in the back, obviously great synergy with the Koraidon, getting the Photosynthesis boost to those special attacks, most likely it's special attack boosting Photosynthesis, and the Assault Vest. What I think is going to be interesting in this one is when I look at Xavier's team here, it's not immediately clear how he is able to deal with Dondozo. There are a couple things that stick out. Maybe knock off from the Incineroar to get rid of leftovers. Parting Shot is going to be able to, and in addition to Intimidate, be able to mitigate some of those boosts that maybe Dondozo is going to be giving itself. And then, the Sash on Fluttermane may be able to do some speed control. And then just big attacks, special attacks from Lunala may be the only way. Raging Bolt can do a lot of big damage to it with electric moves, especially if Will gets that electric terrain set up with Miraidon. But we do see Dondozo has Terra Grass, so a lot of things that can mitigate what maybe little advantages that Xavier is able to get out of his Pokemon that could stop Dondozo. But I think Will has a lot of tools to deal with that, so it should be interesting to see how these trainers go against each other and how this Dondozo rock paper scissors matchup is going to look like today.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that I think Raging Bolt's going to be important, though even with the Terra Grass, with Unaware, Draco Meteors are just going to consistently do a lot of damage, but definitely going to be a team effort, whatever Xavier decides to do. And with that, I think we will hop into the match as I get some background music going. Once again, I apologize, but we have just some audio issues that were present during the recording. That will be resolved by the semifinals, but for now, please enjoy the final battle theme from the main story of Scarlet and Violet. So as we hop into this game, it's really interesting to see how these players are going to lead. In a Dondozo matchup, the leads are so important. How you're setting up for Dondozo to eventually come in, Tatsugiri to come in, have them partner up with Commander. And on Xavier's side, he's got to have a way to not only threaten the Dondozo at almost all times, but also not lose the pieces he needs to threaten it too early. We have...
Yeah, all right. So on our leads here, I think really big thing from Will's end is he wants to get rid of anything that could be able to deal with Dondozo in the back. We haven't seen that it's there yet, but Raging Bolt is on that list. So the more damage that he can get down onto this Raging Bolt prior to Dondozo hitting the field, the better. So I love this lead for Will, while Xavier has to figure out, how do I conserve this Raging Bolt so I have something for the Dondozo in the end game, if that is indeed what is in the back.
Yeah, absolutely. We see the Weezing doing Weezing things, selecting Poison Gas, trying to just poison both Pokemon currently on the field to set up for Dondozo later. Definitely Incineroar wanting to switch in to a Dondozo, possibly getting the Intimidate off. But we see Terra Dark coming out, trying to protect it from a potential knockoff from the Incineroar, wanting to get some good damage down with the Astral Barrage. But we see a Terrastalization coming out from Xavier as well. Both Pokemon going for Terrastalizations early, not allowing for a potential defensive one later on in the match. This one's going to be Terra Electric, going to do a lot of damage with these electric type moves. As we see the Astral Barrage come out, the Assault Vest on the Raging Bolt and the Dark typing on Incineroar going to let them survive that with over half. A Terra Electric Thunderbolt going into the Calyrex, doing big damage but not getting the KO as the Poison Gas comes out now. Getting a poison on all Pokemon on Xavier's side of the field. A Flare Blitz coming out, that is easily going to finish off the Calyrex Shadow Rider, really limiting what Will's going to be able to do going forward.
So, a lot of things happening that turn. As we see the poison tick down here on both Raging Bolt and Incineroar. Will makes the decision that he'd like to preserve the health on Calyrex by Terra Darking there. However, it didn't quite work, I think, to the advantage that he wanted it to. Seeing that his Calyrex went down, and now you have Dondozo Tatsugiri we just saw in the back, and Dondozo does not have access to the Terra Grass now, which means later in the game, this Raging Bolt, should it still be alive, is going to be able to do huge damage there. But Raging Bolt does have the poison ticking on it now, which means its time on this field is limited. And interestingly, Will decides to bring out the Tatsugiri instead of the Dondozo here. You think maybe Dondozo is maybe a little safer here. It could get a decently free Earthquake off, but decides to get maybe a little damage out with Tatsugiri instead. Interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Maybe wanting to force another Pokemon out from Xavier before going for the Dondozo. But we see a Volt Switch that's going to do so much damage with that Terra Electric. Xavier knowing, I need this Raging Bolt for later, and so I'm going to preserve it. And so we'll see what he switches into. Whatever he'll switch into is about to take a Strange Steam. So this Lunala is about to come in into this Weezing Strange Team. Definitely going to break that Shadow Shield, do enough. But we see Incineroar going for Parting Shot, potentially expecting the Dondozo to come in, but no, it's just still the Weezing hanging around.
Yeah, unfortunately, kind of a pretty weak turn there from Will. Protecting on the Tatsugiri really didn't do anything there, as both attacks were headed into that Weezing, making sure that Weezing really can't do that much in future turns. And also, we see that the Toxic Spikes did not get up. So this Lunala is out there and is kind of just sitting out there right now, it's not having the Poison Tick on it. So maybe that does force Will to maybe have to click Poison Gas here soon. However, now you have two Pokemon that are extremely fast on Xavier's side that are going to be able to start doing some big damage here. Weezing is low, and remember, when Tatsugiri is on the field and Dondozo switches in next to it, it's effectively a dead turn where nothing happens, instead of the other way around, when normally if you have Dondozo on the field and Tatsugiri switches in, you get the boost and Dondozo can still move. So if Will decides, which looks like that is going to be what he's going to do, this is basically a punted turn here, unfortunately, from Will, but does mean that he's going to get this Dondozo in and boosted up.
Yeah, so it really comes down to, does Xavier get the read correct? Because if Xavier thinks that Dondozo's coming in, you would want to target the Weezing slot, but if he thinks that Dondozo isn't coming in, you'd want to target the Tatsugiri slot, get it taken out, so it can't be use Commander going forward. So we'll see. So Koraidon's just opting to go for Protect, take a safe play, not wanting to get hit by Strange Steam, and Meteor Beam comes out. We'll see where it decides to go. It does give Lunala the special attack boost anyway, but which slot was it targeting? We'll see momentarily. And it is targeting into the Dondozo slot, going to do actually far less damage than I expected. I know Dondozo got the +2 to special defense, but that's a +1 special attack Meteor Beam. But I guess it is unaware rather, so it doesn't notice the fact that the special attack boost came in. So this was about as good of a way for Dondozo to come in as could have been for Will.
Yeah, I think so. I think Will's relatively content with this as well, because now Raging Bolt is not on the field. It's the thing that is threatening Dondozo the most, and it is not easy to get it back in. But Dondozo's alone, and there are some big hitters across from it. Is it going to be able to last long enough to do what it needs to do here?
Yeah, absolutely. That Order Up, even with the defense drops, isn't able to get the KO, and a Trick Room comes out. Now, this is very interesting because we just saw that the Koraidon was faster than the Dondozo outside of Trick Room, which means that Dondozo will be able to get an attack off before the Koraidon can go in with another close combat.
Yeah, super interesting decision there from Xavier, and I do think it's probably the correct one here. We know that that this Lunala is still going to be able to do big damage with the Moongeist Beam into Dondozo here, and at this point in the match, Xavier doesn't really care about his Koraidon anymore. He's fine if it goes down here.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see that Earthquake come out, going to easily take out the Koraidon, but not do as much to Lunala as you'd like, even with that Shadow Shield down. And so we still have several more turns of Trick Room, and Dondozo, a slow Pokemon, but with the +2 speed, is probably faster than everything Xavier has left.
And remember that that while Raging Bolt is in the back, it still has enough health that it should take, I'd say probably 3 to 4 turns of poison here. So sure, maybe Will can go for some Protect stuff, but on the turn after that, Raging Bolt should get the kill on this Dondozo. It's low enough now that any electric move should kill it. And then the Tatsugiri next to it is just going to take the Meteor Beam, or excuse me, the Moongeist Beam, and take it down to Sash right after that. So I love the idea from Xavier here to get the Trick Room set up. And I think Will now is going to have to start thinking about, how do I get out of this? Is it maybe opting for a double Protect to maybe have the Pokemon that you have in the back out of Trick Room? It's going to be a little bit difficult for Will to get back in this.
Yeah, it's really interesting because if Will was able with Trick, like, when do you want Dondozo to faint? Because unless you go for several Protects in a row, I don't see Dondozo getting out of the Trick Room okay. And even if it's out of the Trick Room, Thunderclap won't care about the speed interaction. So we see him not going for multiple Protects, just going for Earthquake. as Volt Switch comes out from Raging Bolt, probably going to take out the Dondozo, and it does. That Terra Electric, super effective hit, way too much damage, and Tatsugiri comes right back out.
Yeah, I think a Volt Switch is a really good play here. It could have been any of the electric moves from Raging Bolt, Thunderbolt, or Volt Switch, but this way it gets your Incineroar out. Incineroar is able to give you a little bit more in Trick Room, and also we saw earlier that Incineroar was slower than the Weezing, and we know that Weezing is Will's last Pokemon in the back, and if I'm recalling correctly, pretty heavily damaged as well. So Weezing is almost definitely going to fall to a Flare Blitz here from the Incineroar. So love going for the Volt Switch instead of just staying out there with the Raging Bolt that might be faster than the Weezing, which in Trick Room means slower, going second. So Incineroar being the first thing to move on the field here is nothing but good news for Xavier.
Yeah, I'm really interested. It looks like Will doesn't have faith in Tatsugiri going first in Trick Room. We haven't seen it use a move other than Protect, so we don't know its speed initiatives. But I would think that... so... Wait. That's an interesting interaction. It clicked Protect and it failed. Maybe because the last time it clicked a move, it was Protect?
Yes, that's exactly correct. So it remembers that the last time that it did it, because remember, Tatsugiri was on the field prior to the Dondozo in this one. It remembers the last move that it clicked was Protect. But I think regardless there, it was over for Will. Xavier does do a great job at pivoting around and playing the Dondozo matchup well there, and takes that game one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for the lesson there, Professor. I was not aware of that interaction with Dondozo Tatsugiri, and so an excellent move from Xavier. Like you said, pivoting around, able to just handle the Dondozo well enough. That Trick Room was a thing of wonder, and really, when you have a raid boss Dondozo on the other side, you need to make sure that your squad of 4 Pokemon are able to handle it. But absolutely, Will is going to need to adjust in this game too. I think I might like to see Miraidon come, but what's your stance?
Yeah, I think I don't hate Will going for what he did last time. I think the big difference that I think Will should be considering in this one is not going for the Terra Dark on the Calyrex. It really didn't do anything for him of significance in that first game, and I think the game would have been entirely different if Dondozo is able to conserve its Terra Grass in that one. At least it makes it so yeah, you're going to be able to resist the Raging Bolt stuff, but then you got to play around the fire moves from Incineroar and from the Koraidon, but that's probably okay, considering that we saw last game that Xavier wanted to get the Trick Room set up. So if he gets the Trick Room set up, well, Dondozo can be faster in Trick Room than the thing that would be good against it, which would be that fire move from the Koraidon. So I think conserving the Terra here is a good option for Will, regardless of what happens, because Terra Grass on Dozo is really probably his ticket out of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how both players adjust as we load into Game 2 here. It's, like you said, really interesting, and we definitely want to be able to see just the option, the threat of Terra Grass on Dondozo. So we see the same lead from Xavier, Raging Bolt and Incineroar, but this time we have the Electric Drain coming up from the Miraidon, able to resist the ability shield able to resist neutralizing gas with the ability shield, and suddenly we have both of the electric dragons in the format staring down one another.
Yep, and because the electric dragons are both have that, like, is he going to click the dragon move into me this turn? There's a little bit of the mind game of, is fairy on Miraidon, is it not? And Will is really trying to think, how do I get rid of this Raging Bolt so maybe I don't have to Terra my Dondozo later in the game. That should be going through his head right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Will appear to have clicked double Protect, the Incineroar being on the field, threatening the Fake Out, not wanting to have to deal with it on this turn 1 and risking a huge damage coming into one of those Pokemon from the Raging Bolt. But it looks like Xavier is once again turn 1 Terra Electric on Raging Bolt, wanting to get that extra damage from electric moves off, possibly later in the game into Dondozo, but also just losing the Dragon weakness, not wanting to fall to a Draco Meteor, which does imply it did click Fake Out into the Weezing, but we'll see here in a moment what the Incineroar wanted to do. Draco Meteor once again pings into the Protect, and actually that wasn't Fake Out, which means it was just a parting shot, trying to not going for the Fake Out, expecting a Protect maybe, or not really mattering either way with the Protects.
Yeah, maybe slightly missed opportunity there from Will to get the either a Toxic Spike set or a Poison Gas out to make the put a timer on this Raging Bolt and the Incineroar. But I'm totally fine with the double Protect. You see that your opponent has committed to the Electric Terra here, and also what he wanted to do. He wanted to click that Draco Meteor into your Miraidon, which does mean, hey, is he going to do that again? Is that something maybe I want to Terra my Miraidon into? And it looks like that's what we're going to get out of Will here, predicting another Draco Meteor into his Miraidon.
Yeah, absolutely. Terra Fairy, so popular on Miraidon, able to lose the Dragon weakness and boost the Dazzling Gleam for spread damage. Definitely the most common spread attack. Here comes a Draco Meteor into the Raging Bolt, but with it losing its Dragon typing and having that Assault Vest, it does just full damage. We see a Volt Switch come out, doing really big damage into Miraidon now that it's traded its quadruple resistance for a neutrality, and that's a really good pivot on the side of Xavier here. But we'll see what he switches into, and so Lunala comes in, and we have both the Incineroar and the Weezing to go, Strange Steam coming out, but double pivot moves coming out on the side of Xavier. Parting Shot really neutralizing that Miraidon, now at -3 special attack.
I think that was definitely a great turn from Xavier there. He did not take the bait in going for that Draco into the Miraidon. That would have done nothing. Decides to get huge damage into Miraidon after the Terra, and also gets some momentum out from the Incineroar to be able to conserve it, maybe for some Intimidate shenanigans later into potential Dondozo. And Will does not get the poison up for a second turn in a row, and just decides to go for Strange Steam, which really didn't do anything in that one.
Yeah, I would have loved the Strange Steam if he clicked it into the slot that Miraidon came in on. That would have been breaking the Shadow Shield really useful. But Toxic Spike's turn 1 would have been great for all the switching going around. But we'll see. Now we've got a Meteor Beam +1 going into the Weezing. It's able to hang on, but takes a lot of damage. Fortunately, it wasn't double up into that slot. The Miraidon, being Ability Shield instead of Specs like we see so often, does allow it to carry that Protect and allow it to survive a Thunderbolt coming its way from the Raging Bolt. And now we finally see some poison coming out in the form of Poison Gas, chipping off that Shadow Shield and getting the Raging Bolt under half.
Yeah, now we get to start seeing what Weezing can do to this team. I mean, Miraidon Electro Drift probably does. It's not going to do a whole ton because it's not a Choice Specs Miraidon as we've seen, but it's still going to do quite a bit now that the shield is broken.
The shield's broken, but it's at -3 special attack. You see it doing absolutely pitiful damage there, as Amoonguss Beam is just going to come in and finish off this Weezing. I think that Will is just trying to set up the Pokemon he has in the back as best as he can here in this endgame, because another Thunderbolt surely comes out now to deal with this Miraidon. Yeah, and there we go. Miraidon goes down, and it wasn't Dozo Tatsugiri in the back we saw this time. I think we're about to see Maushold come to the fore here.
Well, that's interesting if that's the case, because we do have the two Pokemon. They're still poisoned, and yes, you are absolutely correct. It is these two, Maushold and and the Calyrex. However, Calyrex is choice specs here, which means it does have to lock into a move. Ideally, in a perfect world, you'd think that move would be the Shadow, or would be the Astro Barrage. However, you don't want to do that into a wide guard potentially from the Lunala, but we also saw the Feint from Maushold on this one that could be kind of impactful here, and it does look like that's what Will's going to opt for.
Yeah, absolutely. The Feint coming in absolutely clutch, able to feint into the Raging Bolt on the opponent's side, breaking any potential wide guard that is thrown up. And both of these Pokemon are low enough that a Astro Barrage, especially a Choice Specs one, will absolutely knock both of them out. So this is a really difficult position that Xavier finds himself in. We see the Raging Bolt switching out, going into the Incineroar, potentially threatening Fake Out pressure on future turns, only into the Maushold. We see the Feint come out, absolutely there to prevent a wide guard, but this Astro Barrage comes out, gets only a singular KO instead of a double KO, but that's Lunala going down and giving a special attack boost to the Calyrex.
Yeah, and I mean, there might be some rolls that are at factor here, but I'd like to think that with the +1 in special attack there from the Grimnay boost, it does seem that Incineroar is probably going to fall to the next one as well. So I'm not sure there's a lot that Xavier can do here to kind of bring this back. I think your best shot is maybe a crit of a Thunderclap here, and pray a little bit, because I'm not sure what else Xavier's got, but maybe a crit from a Terra Electric Raging Bolt can do it.
Yeah, but the problem is this is such an interesting turn. So a Fake Out does go into the Maushold, which does prevent the Follow Me, but we'll see how this Thunderclap does. There's no electric terrain anymore, so it's not getting boosted, and without that electric terrain, that's nowhere near enough damage. And the Incineroar, if there was ever a chance of it living a +1 Astro Barrage, that Fake Out chip damage from the Rocky Helmet on Maushold makes it so that survival is impossible, and now we have a +3 on special attack on the Calyrex Shadow Rider, making it just an absolute menace to what you have to assume is Koraidon on the opponent's side as the final Pokemon.
That probably spells the end there, Xavier. Even if for some reason the Koraidon is faster than the Calyrex, which probably shouldn't be. The Calyrex should probably be timid nature here to outspeed everything. But even if so, you still have the Maushold that has Follow Me to be able to redirect anything here, and not a lot is taking +3 Astro Barrage here, single target from the Calyrex Shadow Rider, so that should be a Game 2 win for Will.
Yeah, absolutely. Xavier not running away, but accepting his fate as Koraidon feints to the Astro Barrage, and Will brings it back, going 1-1, really showing as amusing as the thought may be, showing his experience with Dondozo Tatsugiri, knowing, hey, I need to have 4 other Pokemon that I can bring in case this isn't a good Dozogiri game. And he managed that perfectly.
No doubt. In order to be good with Tatsugiri and Dondozo, as we know that Will is, you also have to be good with the 4 Pokemon that support it, that make it do its job. And sometimes there are going to be games where you have to leave Dozo and Tatsugiri behind. That was one that Will opted, hey, I think I see something here with Maushold and Calyrex in the back. If I can just get enough chip down on the Pokemon like the Lunala, like the Raging Bolt, like the Incineroar, maybe, just maybe, the Calyrex in the back can really do a lot of work. So it worked that time, and I think it worked because Xavier was playing the game as if Dondozo and Tatsugiri were in the back. And so now, headed into this Game 3, Xavier has to be looking at that team sheet thinking, man, is Will going to be bringing Dondozo this time? Is he going to opt for the more standard core of the Miraidon and the Calyrex Shadow Rider with the 2 supportive Pokemon with it. We did see that that Xavier opted to leave Amoonguss in the back for this one. Possibly something that could come in for this game to maybe kind of be a neutral, good against both things, good against the Dozo if it does not have Terra, but also is going to be able to survive some of the things that the Calyrex can go for. Really interesting game 3 because Will can go any direction here, and you see in team preview we're 20 seconds left and he still hasn't decided what he wants to do. Yeah,
absolutely. I really do find the way he played that last game really good, keeping both of his Pokemon in the back hidden, bluffing the Dozogiri. He's debating if he wants to bring them in this game number 3, and he does. So we'll see if who wins the mental game in between these two. Does Xavier prepare for the Dondozo and Tatsugiri, or bring a team more suited for Will's other 4 Pokemon? As we load in here, we see Xavier. Is he going to lead the same thing? He leads the same as he has every round so far, Raging Bolt and Incineroar, but this time we have Maushold and Calyrex, the duo that ended the game so well last round. Ended the last game so well, now coming out trying to get a strong start.
Yeah, I think you're pretty happy with this if you're Will. I don't see a whole lot of reason to not just click Astro Barrage plus Follow Me here just to protect your Calyrex. We know that the Maushold has Rocky Helmet, so redirecting any amount of damage away from the Calyrex will mean that Incineroar takes an amount of chip here from what I'd assume would be a knockoff, and probably could still make it through the turn with a Thunderbolt plus knockoff here. So really nice lead from Will. Let's see if he's able to translate it into the turn.
Yeah, so once again we see Xavier going for Terra Electric, wanting to get as much damage as possible out with his Raging Bolt, but we will see. Here comes the Follow Me, so there wasn't a fake out into this Maushold. Again, no real need for that, but it will protect it. Astro Barrage comes out and does pretty decent damage, but not as much as you'd like. But will this double up into Maushold take it out? You have to assume it will.
With that Terra, it looked like it.
Absolutely. So the Incineroar is going to get a bit more chip due to the Rocky Helmet, still above half. But that does put Will in a bit of an awkward situation, because now you have to go into Tatsugiri or Dondozo. He goes into Dondozo, which I do like. It does force some uncomfortable decisions on what you want to go for as Xavier, because Dondozo could just stay in and just attack on its own. And then you still have to worry about the Calyrex, but if you try to focus into the Calyrex with something like Thunderclap, suddenly it could just switch out, go into Tatsugiri, and then Tatsugiri jumps into Dondozo's mouth, protecting it.
Yeah, certainly a weird situation here for Will. I think this is one of those circumstances that after how that turn 1 transpired, he's thinking, man, I would kind of like to have Miraidon Weezing in the back here, but instead it's Dozo Tatsugiri, and we are going to see the pair combine here and get that Omni boost. I think that we saw Will lock in the Earthquake here, so the question to me is this +2 Earthquake going to be enough as a spread damage move to be able to knock out both the Incineroar and the Raging Bolts that we know are about a little bit of both above half health here. We know that this Dondozo is really bulky, investing in those defenses rather than the attack after missing a couple key rolls in Game 1. So this is going to be a huge turn, whether this Earthquake kills or not.
Yeah, I have to assume it will. It is spread damage, but both Pokemon took so much damage from that Choice Specs Astro Barrage. It does get a double knockout, which does mean it's Dozogiri against the last 2 Pokemon that Xavier has in the back. However, both Pokemon Xavier has in the back are probably his restricteds, and that means a Sun-boosted Flare Blitz could be coming into this Dondozo.
No doubt, and that's exactly what is going to happen here as we see Lunala and Koraidon. And you're exactly right. The sun boosted, and we made the note in the pregame, this is Life Orb Koraidon rather than the Clear Amulet that has been so popular. That Life Orb is going to give a really significant boost here to the Koraidon going for the Flare Blitz. However, Terra has been used on Will's side on Xavier's side of the field, so unable to get that Fire Terra here. But the question remains, is Sun boosted Life Orb Flare Blitz plus whatever Lunala goes for going to be enough to take out this Dondozo? We shall see.
Yeah, so we see Protect coming out from the Koraidon, maybe wanting to just protect itself from an order up and let Lunala get some damage out. Amoonguss Beam coming out into a Protect from the Dondozo, kind of a wash of a turn, but we really need to see, you want the Shadow Shield gone on Lunala, so it will fall to a Astral Barrage from your Shadow Rider in the back, but it can go for Wide Guard if he predicts the Earthquake. But a double Protect coming out from Koraidon is going to protect it from this Earthquake, but it is going to break the Shadow Shield on this Lunala here. And if it's anything like last turn, you have to assume that a special attack is coming, but it is that Meteor Beam, and we know that that's not going to do that much damage into an unaware Dondozo like we saw in the game number 1. So this will launch into it, and it'll just do a little less than a quarter of Dondozo's health.
Yeah, I am not sure about Xavier there going for the double Protect. Sure, he got it, but I don't think that actually helps anything, because it does mean that's one more turn wasted of the Sun being on the field, and Will is considering clicking another move, but could totally opt if he wanted to just attack. He's going for Flame Charge here. I'm a little confused as to why Xavier is doing what he's doing.
So I can understand with that Flame Charge, he's absolutely going to be faster than the Calyrex Shadow Rider in the back, maybe wanting to go for that endgame. But he could have clicked Trick Room if he was really scared of it, tried to go for a knockout and Trick Room play. Now, that does mean with the Dondozo in this position, it is absolutely going to go down on this next turn. It's not going to be able to take another hit, and this Koraidon is low, but not so low that one more Life Orb recoil will take it out. So it's really coming down to the wire here. That double Protect actually mattering significantly, because that Earthquake chip damage would have meant that the Koraidon goes down.
It would have, yeah. I think the problem here is that I'm a little afraid that this Koraidon is too low. It doesn't look like it's going to be knocked out from one more Life Orb recoil click here, but it does seem that Xavier has managed to figure out a way through this Dondozo. The thing is, though, he does have to go for the Flame Charge rather than the Flare Blitz. Odds are Flame Charge is going to take out the Dozo in the Sun, but he has to, because the Flare Blitz recoil is probably going to be enough that Life Orb plus recoil will take out the Koraidon, and that's basically a lost game for Xavier. So he doesn't have a choice here, and Will, realizing that, says, I think this is the turn. I need a double Protect here. Instead is opting for Earthquake. I think Protect is always the right play here, if I'm Will.
Yeah, I think so too, but we see the Flame Charge come out. We will see, surely we have to see a Moongeist Beam coming and breaking the Focus Sash of the Tatsugiri, taking it down to 1 HP. And it's really going to be interesting to see. I think it will come down potentially to the speed tiers of the Lunala and the Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri having a surprisingly high special attack stat, and with the Shadow Shield broken, a Draco Meteor will do good damage to Lunala, and that's assuming that, so it's really interesting to see how the speed game is going to play here. We haven't seen the Tatsugiri do anything other than click Protect, so we really need to see what's coming here. So locking in, knowing that the Koraidon is going to feint to one more attack regardless of who it targets. So how is this going to play out? It's really interesting.
Yeah, you got to think Will is playing for a crit Draco Meteor right now, or a Muddy Water Accurate. Those are his two options here. I do not believe that either move will take out the Lunala, so he's got to be playing for one of those two outs right now.
So here comes the Flare Blitz. The sun is not up, actually, which is critical. Which means that the Koraidon faints, and we have a Choice Spec single target Shadow Ball, actually, just going into the Lunala here. And Shadow Shield being broken means that's easily going to be a one-hit KO. And so Will manages the Dondozo much better in this game 3 and is able to take out Xavier. A really, really fantastic game by both trainers, but Will able to come out ahead there.
Yeah, I think Will did a good job with Dondozo there, knowing that the end game, after seeing that the Koraidon did get that +1 speed from the Flame Charge, Will knew that the end game was all about how am I going to be able to survive the Flare Blitz from the Koraidon. Well, the answer to that is you need the sun to be down. So Will is able to conserve his Dondozo's health enough so that the Calyrex Shadow Rider comes out with the sun down and is able to, I'd say, better than I thought, actually, take that Flare Blitz really well, and be able to make it through the turn. And yeah, we saw the Koraidon knock itself out and just get the win with the Calyrex Shadow Rider. So great job, Will. Really, really well played with the Dondozo there. Great conservation of turns there, making sure that the sun was wasted. Again, I want to go back to that second protect from Xavier. Sure, he was able to stop the earthquake damage there, but that was a turn of sun that he could have desperately used to get some more damage onto that Dondozo and chose not to. So it worked out in the end for Will. Congratulations on that big victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone, I think that's where we're going to end it here. This was round 3, again, of the League Cup at the Collector's Store in St. Peter's. We've got round 4, and then 2 more games even after that, the semifinals and finals. So stick around. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next match.